when we talk about that the women who should be killed, it's not someone who's like you, someone who does important work. We are talking about women who are prostitutes. And I was like, whoa, this is like, you think when I go out into the world, someone cannot profile me because of how I'm dressed. And like they say, oh, Justine is this type of person. And then I'm targeted for that kind of violence. You think that doesn't happen. It happens all the time.
From online harassment to cyber harassment to sextortion to non-consensual sharing of personal information, the internet has become both a battlefield and a weapon against feminist digital activists. However, it has also become a place of resistance, solidarity, and a place where we can air our opinions. In today's episode, we have one of the vocal voices online, and we are so excited to have her on Digital Dada podcast. Welcome to today's episode. My name is Cecilia Maundu. I'm a broadcast journalist and a digital security trainer. I work at the intersection of technology, human rights, and journalism. So, welcome to Digital Dada, and thank you so much for making the time to be here.
Thank you for having me, Cecilia.
Kindly introduce yourself and tell us something about yourself.
It's usually so awkward to do this, but my name is Justine Wanda. I am a stand-up comedian. I'm a writer. I am a satirist, a political commentator. Recently, I found out there's something called a news influencer, which is apparently also what I do.
Oh, wow.
And I love making people laugh, but I also try as much as possible to use my platform to intersect comedy with as many different important topics of the day as possible. Yeah.
I mean, you wear many hats. Mm-hmm. So, when did you first realize that online spaces can also be used for resistance and to air our voice, especially from the feminist perspective?
I think it's very difficult to separate any place that people gather to share information and interact with each other with any kind of discourse, because every single platform that we have, it's an avenue to speak out, to engage, to interact with people who probably wouldn't think of this information as important to them. And for others, this is a very, very critical space to make sure that they're seen, heard, and cared for. So I can't pinpoint to a certain day, but I'll just say I think I pride myself in making sure that my work has meaning, and every single video that I do, every single information I try to share, it just tries and bridge that gap of what is important to be spoken about. And that's how I think of my work, and that's how I think of the platforms that I have access to. Yeah.
So, how would you describe your digital activism? Is it through storytelling? Is it mobilization, policy change, or what is it about?
First of all, I think we were just speaking a little earlier. I don't like to call myself an activist. Mm-hmm. And again, I'll just reiterate, it's because activists have like a certain labor of love for the cause that I think a lot of us are still working our way around. So I like to actually refer to myself again as an active citizen, because there's a lot of elements that go into making our society better that so many people are required to make sure that those moving parts actually make sense. So, what was your question then? Sorry.
How is your activism or your active citizen? Is it through storytelling, policy change, mobilization? How do you go about it? Because I before I was introduced to you, I was following you online, you know? So when I approached Wamadai and he suggested your name, and then I go online, I'm like, oh, okay, I actually follow you, you know? Yeah. So how do you go about it? Because clearly you're also a storyteller because of the work that you do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think it's an intersection of a lot of those things. Mm-hmm. As a stand-up comedian, you kind of have to get up on stage and make people laugh, but also what are you saying? So you kind of have to draw people into this story that you're telling. What's really important to you? What's the thing that you're trying to share? I'll give an example of a joke I did during the finance bill protests, or like around that time. I was talking specifically about how a lot of MPs didn't read the finance bill.
Which is true.
Yeah, most of them were just like, we didn't even know what was in it. And that's not just about the finance bill 2024. It's also true for the finance bill 2023. So the joke was, there's a part of the finance bill that wanted to increase the prices of wheelchair tires. And I'm like, that's just crazy. And I was like, this is not the kind of inclusion we want, because that's you raising money on people who are already disenfranchised. And I remember that particular clip was me trying to merge as many different spaces, like what the finance bill is saying, who is going to be affected, why does this matter to you? So I'll say in that particular example, that's an instance of storytelling, but it's just like cut to like a very specific issue. I'll say I also do mobilization work, but not me personally. I am not very good at organizing. I am horrible at following up on things, but I do know how to connect people to each other. So usually if someone is like right now, there's the electoral process going on.
Yeah.
There are people who are trying to find out where they can get registered as voters. So the thing that I would do with my channel is like work with people who are working in those spaces. I'll do like a story that refers to myself or someone who has been affected or like can't find a constituency center. And then I will kind of use my platform to connect them to the information and make sure and even follow up, because some people will like DM me and ask, I can't see this particular registration center. Can you assist? And I'm like, the best person to ask is this person. Go and follow this. This is the link. So I think in part it's also mobilization.
It is mobilization.
Yeah, because you're just trying to connect people from point A to B, because the information, especially with a lot of government institutions, is all over the place. They like taking like a conference photo and like, hey, look at us having lunch and like speaking at meetings. But when it comes down to it, like the things that people need, sometimes it's just not very in your face. So
I look at it as a PR package.
It
you know,
really
to
is.
try and tick a box, but
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's actually very weird that most people in certain spaces, especially if they have to connect to people, don't think of their work as front facing. They think it's like we need to be in boardrooms sitting around. So I think I take storytelling very seriously. I do it not only like with my stand-up, but also with my satire, and also with and also when I make films, I'm like, how does this particular issue affect me? 2 years ago, we made a film with my friends specifically about how influencer couples, sometimes like everything is not so rosy. Like before you get that picture that shows up on your feed, like maybe the life is not that beautiful before like you got that picture. They could be struggling with so many different things, not just in person, but like how they operate in the world. So the subtext of that short film was, we shouldn't just take everything at surface level. So I'll say it's a little bit of most of those things, like storytelling, mobilizing, a little bit of organizing where I can, but also just also hyping people so that they don't feel so discouraged. Yeah.
One thing I have discovered about storytelling, people love stories. People relate to story. And when you use storytelling, you end up being in people's minds, and your point is passed across. However, with storytelling, you also have to be creative. And there's always that debate. You are either born creative or not. I don't know. Let's not open the Pandora's box. Yes. So let's talk about June 25th. So the protest on June 25th showed the power of online organizing.
Yes.
I've never been more proud to be a Kenyan than that moment, you know, when we decided, yes, I'm a millennial. So I don't want to count myself among the Gen Z. However, I was very proud. How did digital platform contribute to the movement?
I'll backtrack a little bit. June 25th didn't just happen.
Yeah.
We'd seen over I'll give an example of what happened in the Finance Bill 2023. This to me was the thing that really, really spoke to me. That's the time they were introducing the housing levy. Where do I remember? It was a very strange time.
The housing levy, we requested the president to.
It's like maybe like the personal request came from inside the office. So
I'm sure it didn't.
The thing that I remember vividly about the Finance Bill 2023 was people asking, what is this money for? Is it for building houses? Is it savings? And every single place government representatives who were working on this specific thing would go, especially I think the housing principal secretary, he could not explain what it was.
In fact, he was the worst person to explain.
Yes.
He didn't even know what it was about.
I remember him sweating. Yeah. It was a very strange thing to watch. And every time I would watch those clips, I'd be like, why are we being pushed to pay for something that even the people who are collecting the money can't explain what it is? And this happened in the course of a year. And this was specifically tied to a policy that was in a document that many MPs did not read, admittedly. One of the things that was also in the Finance Bill 2023 was an e-teams that was expected to be given, like farmers were expected to have e-teams for every single transaction. If you sell an avocado, e-teams, maize, e-teams. And their constituents, like when it was, because usually it's between, like when the policy is passed and when it starts being implemented, there's usually a window of transition. So when they went to when the transition period expired and like the thing went into effect, and farmers were like, we cannot transact like this. It's not possible. Oh. There's no infrastructure. You're actually just messing with my business. It felt very deliberate. And I remember all these MPs, I think mostly from like central parts of Ukambani and Western, all of them, like they were going back to the farmers and apologizing and telling them, we are so sorry, we didn't read the bill. And in that moment, I was like, this is terrifying.
Can you imagine? They didn't read?
Like, it's so basic level. And I know this is probably a challenge to Sudi. I get it. But like, there's so many other people who can actually read. Like, you're actually literate. Like, you know how ABC is. You have read books. So it doesn't make any sense for you to not read a bill, especially something that is directly affecting farmers. So when I was explaining what the housing levy bill was, the story to me was like, if you really, really want to build good systems, the first thing you do is make sure the infrastructure is in place. If I'm going to build you a house, I make sure you have drainages. I make sure you have walkable or like access to public transit. It's sanitary. Like every single part of this building caters to you as the person living there. There are people who live in those affordable housing projects that are in Pangani. Those people do not have a lot of things. Mm-hmm. They are still struggling with water. They're still struggling with electricity, collection of garbage. It's all these different things coming together, like affecting them. Mm. And now you're telling me that you're going to move a whole subsect of Kenyans whose income is barely existent into this affordable housing that some of them have paid for, and then they have to continue paying for them to own those houses. Like, this is a policy that makes absolutely no sense. So now, jump forward to 2024. This was it's like so many things that had been brewing up until this point. A lot of unexplained policies, a lot of like the government doesn't understand what it's doing. And then what this ended up happening, like people had to educate themselves. They were like, how are you increasing taxes on pads, on bread, on diapers? These are things that people basically need. And we live in an economy that
people can't even afford them as they are.
Yes.
And now you want to increase.
Yes. So it was a knowledge of like, we do not see ourselves in this policy. We do not see how we can make it out of this particular economic disenfranchisement. So we are showing up, because if we don't stop this thing now, they're going to implement it, and we're the ones who are going to suffer. because most MPs, they don't live the same regular life that a regular Kenyan with a job that they have to go every single day lives. People in the executive, none of those people live the same lives. They probably have help, and the people who are also helping them are probably paid very little. And those are the people who are truly, truly affected by these policies. So if the thing that really got people out in the streets was they saw themselves in the damage. They saw themselves in the effects of, like, if the house levy passed and it is ending up, so many payslips have very little money. It's like you're just seeing your money going, and none of these things are helping you. So how am I supposed to trust, like, if they're going to take all these taxes, it's going to improve the quality of my life? If it's not, then I have to be outside. At least I should be speaking up for the right thing so that they don't continue harming me and say that I didn't say anything. And to me, it was a very important point in the history of our country that Kenyans coalesced around policy. It was not like people pushing each other because of political mileage or anything. It was like, we feel very, very scared. We feel very concerned. We are angry, and we are going to make sure this policy does not pass. Ironically, the majority leader in parliament stood up, I think a couple of months ago, and is like, we passed some of the clauses in the finance. He was like so proud of that. And I kept thinking, these people are not thinking about what happened in June 2024.
I think
they don't think of it. They think of it as a non-issue. A non-issue, exactly. And that's a dangerous place to be, especially with a population that so many young people do not have jobs. I think the unemployment rate is very high right now.
It is skyrocketing, actually.
There's like 3 million people who are not employed, like who are supposed to be joining the workforce. 3 million of them, no job, nothing. And that situation is not changing. And the idea of truth and reconciling the failures of their own policy is to tell people, like, what happened in June, which they see as an issue. The people who are angry and protesting, and it wasn't just Nairobi, it was across the country.
Yes.
If all these people were outside and they were angry, where do you think they are right now? They didn't go away. They probably have to reorganize and figure out how to make sure they're still in the story of this country, and that the protests and everyone who showed up and the people who are disappeared, people who are harmed, their story just doesn't die because we were harmed in that moment and we were made to feel like our voices don't matter. It should worry them that most of these people are still out there. Most of these people are still seeing the kind of policies and dismissal of their truth that is happening every single day. Yeah.
I think what really bothers me about this bloodthirsty regime, because it is that, is the fact that when we even air our concern, it's like them trying to tell us, like, we don't care. It's the same thing you're saying, that the majority leader stood up. Like, like, how do you even, like, the audacity, even if you did it, is that something to say in public? Look at how many people died in that process. Mothers lost their children. People died. You understand? So when you look at this regime, you are left with more questions than answers in how they are able to, like, even live with themselves. And I think one of the things that we have right now is a digital platform, because the time has changed, like, our voices have to be heard. I was somewhere yesterday and there was the conversation of, Tanzania and the issue of the internet shutdown, and, people saying, 2027, it might take, it might replicate itself in Kenya. But at the same time, I'm like, imagine there's no internet in this country. You remember there's a time, I think Safaricom was down for 1 hour. They said they lost billions of shillings. So I'm yet to imagine they would get the audacity to do that. But nothing surprises me from this regime.
Truly.
So in your view, how does social media algorithms, because you remember the algorithms are the kingmakers.
Yeah.
Yes, they're the kingmakers, and platform policies contribute or fail to prevent the issue of disinformation and misinformation, especially when it is orchestrated from Big Brother. I mean, we're talking about the 527 bloggers.
When I think of algorithms, I think my head just spins, because as someone who prides themselves in like the creation of work, like from scratch, like me writing and researching and trying to make a joke as good as possible, and then just posting. Because I used to, like, when I started out, I used to get like 12 views, and it's just like two of my friends who watched them repeatedly. I used to be so proud. I'm like, at least there's someone who's watching this.
Yeah.
But then it gets to a point where you start working for the algorithm. It's like, if I don't post today, my page won't get the traction. People will forget I exist. It's like you start tying your worth and the worth of your work to the algorithm, and that's terrifying, because it's not that you're not working. It's not that your work doesn't matter. It's just that you're in a situation where the platform that you're supposed to use also it's trying to extract people's attention and trying to make sure people feel like they can fill the gaps in what's lacking, maybe in the physical world, in like what they get online, and then that becomes the cycle we are trapped in. And I absolutely hate that we have to live through the age of the algorithm dictating our lives.
It's like they have held us hostage.
It is. It is. And then there are people who, I'll give an example of when Elon Musk was removing verification marks on people.
Yeah.
And I think my first question was like, okay, if you remove the verification, won't there be so many other people who are kind of falsifying their identities to look like they're this person? Like, it was just like such an obvious mistake.
Like the issue of impersonation. Yes.
And then he was like, okay, no, we'll just give like the people who are like in governments and all these different people, we'll give them a different verification. We'll give them the gray check mark so that you can know that they're official. And then we will give certain accounts the parody so that you know this is a parody. And then for the rest of you, we will give you the blue check mark so that you can earn from your tweets. So what ended up happening is like people started posting outrageous things. Like people were posting all sorts of crazy things to trend, to get traction. And then now in this particular horror movie, we are now adding the incentivization of like bad governments wanting to control narratives. It's happening with what is happening in Sudan. We've seen it happening with what is happening in Palestine. Like every single place where people are being harmed, the algorithm can drown your story. It can reframe your entire story. Instead of saying this is the imperialist machine harming people, or like people with personal business interests trying to take people's land, it can literally take the voices of the few, squash it, use influencers and all these paid people to like take out the truth from a conversation, and then that becomes the reigning narrative. And then now that's what people believe. Because the thing that comes with like the algorithm controlling every single story is also the propaganda machine is easy to manufacture. You can just get enough people to get a story to trend, and then now the narrative has completely shifted. Yeah.
And now that makes me wonder, are we also at the edge of losing the digital platform to the people controlling it? Because you remember we were talking about very organic conversation, and that was 25th of June happened. As you said, it's the momentum started gaining up. And now we were able to control the narrative. But with the issue of algorithms, I'm always worried with like, if the right agenda get there, or those who control it, will be able to put out the agenda there as we are left feeling so helpless. I don't know. Algorithms really make me worried. And it's the same thing with the AI.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
we've
just to your point, I think one of the funniest things that is happening online right now is you can try and lie as much as possible, but even for the people who are probably who have access to less information. There's someone who has access to more. There are people who are reading, there are people who are doing the work, there are people who are researching work in these fields, they care about people. All these people exist. They still exist on those platforms. And they're that small divide between the how you can tweak the algorithm to send your own narrative and the truth of the situation, they will always collide. It might take some time. Unfortunately, it comes with a lot of damage, but at the same time, the truth might take its time. The truth is a proper queen. Like it's just taking its time, but like the truth always
It
holds
comes
up.
out. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we have this year 16 days of activism, and the theme is Unite Against Digital Violence. So I want to ask you, have you personally faced online harassment, the trolling, the cyberbullying? Yes.
So I'll say I am among the luckiest few who have not been trolled, because my work is not centered around me. It's centered around issues and jokes. That's just it. It's not, I'm not like at the core of it. So I've gotten very lucky that I've not been like in that particular storm. But I remember one instance when I was on someone's podcast. I don't know if I can say. I was on Mafrika's podcast, and like a part of the podcast was I was speaking about the manosphere and how a little part of the manosphere, not even a little part, a big part of the manosphere is a lot of gaslighting. And most of the people who are in it are very young people. They're impressionable. They're still learning about the world. Most of them have probably just grown up with the online space. So they feel very connected to it, and they try to find a sense of meaning in these particular spaces. My argument was, some of these figures are like the things that they talk about and the things that they are so gladly embracing are, it's very impressionable to younger minds, and some people take this violence from online to offline. And my argument is like, we can't just continue to prop up people who do not have the education and don't really care about young men in this way. So like we should platform a different type of conversation around, like for young men and all these people in these spaces. And I remember someone clipped a part of what I had said, and then they reshared it.
And that's what they do. They take, and then we also, Kenyans are strange people. They don't bother to find out like what was said. They take it out of context. Yes.
And like you can fully be in disagreement with someone, and you can really, really hate what someone is saying. You're free to have all your emotions. Like I will not tell you cannot be angry that this person is saying this thing, or you cannot feel very connected to this particular point of view if it matches your experience. But also flattening the truth just so that your narrative can prevail is dangerous. So someone clipped it, and then they clipped it and they tagged me, and then they started attacking me, and they're saying, oh, tutakukujia nini. I had to lock my Twitter account. It's like I am afraid that if one of these people knows where, because I'm a stand-up comedian, I perform all these different places, like someone might show up at one of my shows and then I could get attacked. Like that was my worry, because my work is very front-facing. Like I am still out there. As much as I contribute in the online space, I'm also like a person going through the world. And that was the only time I think I've faced that kind of backlash. I think it's kind of like died a really quick death because it didn't probably gain the momentum that person was hoping. But I'm pretty sure, because the internet is forever, people can always clip things and bring them back and act like you are a terrible person for saying one or two, three things that they don't agree with. And then a second time, I think I remember, this was not an attack on me. I spoke on femicide and like why this is a terrible crisis to be having, and how it presents itself, and why, like I was just like trying to get people to understand, like women don't just opt out of violence. You can't just be a good woman and like violence will never follow you. That's not how anything works. And I remember when I posted this video, someone on my Twitter page, again, on TikTok, it was terrible. It was like all sorts of degrading names. It's like It was
It's
just
so sexist and gendered.
Yeah.
Not even about the comment that you made.
Yes.
People just move. Goes back to what you're saying.
Yes.
Like, those MPs had never read the bill. Then they pass it. The
Yes.
same way somebody just sees a comment. Instead of
Yes.
even looking at the context, you start moving off to something very different.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then now, like on Twitter, someone had quoted it. When we talk about that, the women who should be killed, it's not someone who's like you, someone who does important work. We are talking about women who are prostitutes. And I was like, whoa. This is like, you think when I go out into the world, someone cannot profile me because of how I'm dressed. And like they say, oh, Justine is this type of person. And then I'm targeted for that kind of violence. You think that doesn't happen. It happens
happen,
all the time. Like, I need people to remember, like, the way you see people, the way you perceive people, the things that you're projecting onto them, that's a very real problem that women face in the world, where you can be attacked because you're a woman and the situation feels helpless because no one around you is defending you. It can be just as simple as that. And also online violence is like, if I'm consuming the wrong things online, I'm in this echo chamber of people gaslighting each other, telling each other that women are the problem, women are causing this, women are causing this. If maybe I'll say maybe I'm unemployed, my work feels very like the work I'm trying to get feels very difficult to find, and like I'm living in such difficult economic hardship, and maybe it's a peer I went to in school just happens to have gotten a leg up or something, and I see that and I feel like, yeah, maybe women are advancing. If they were not in the workplace, I would have that opportunity. But that's not the truth about anything. It's because there are women who are harmed in their homes. There are women who are harmed in their workplaces. There are women who are harmed in the streets. Even when you're walking around, women get catcalled all the time. Like, violence is all around you. So it's almost like you have to tweak your brain to navigate these spaces. So the thing that terrifies me, especially that terrified me about like how that person spoke, is they reduce you to like, oh, people will just see you and they will think, oh, because of her work, she's a good person, so she cannot get harmed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it doesn't matter how I am. People have been harmed in churches, in mosques, in places where you wouldn't think any kind of violence would happen
Even at
to
home,
them.
can you imagine? Home is supposed to be home, safe.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's not just limited to women, and it's like girls, underage girls. We have kids. There's something that was being shared, I think, online about an STI chat for kids. Like, these are literally like, sometimes there are places where they have high rates of STIs in children, and most of them is because of sexual and gender-based violence. And if we're not thinking about what is happening in people's homes and the tragedy of how most people don't understand what violence is, there's nowhere we're going. We need to understand that violence is always closer than you think. Most people are harmed in places that they're expected to be safe. So if we connect those two dots, we're like, we have to make sure what are the protections, what is the kind of education even that's going into making sure that people fully understand how we fan the flames of this violence, how it gets so accepted, and how people act like it's not happening. Like, if we can just break that particular barrier on how violence presents itself, many more people can actually get saved or rescued or like removed from this situation.
It's like breaking it down into very small pieces.
Yes. It's not about what you perceive yourself to be. There's something I always say, like, if you're a good person, that's a good thing. You broke through the algorithm of tragedy and you came out on the other side as a good person. But you cannot project that on what the world actually is. There are people who have been bred in violence and they have normalized it. And they are okay with going out into the world and harming people. So you have to be aware that exists and understand that these systems are connected in a way, and like find a way to shatter them.
Circling back to your earlier point, manosphere, for our audience who don't know what that is, just give us in a nutshell what manosphere is.
I can't really fully explain the manosphere, but what I can say is there's like almost like an influencer culture to teach boys how to be men, or like men how to stay men. And most of it was not built on like what their needs are and what they're trying to get for themselves. It was mostly built on like what is the definition of masculinity as it pertains to certain things, and like how you can protect yourself from like women and like the destruction of the patriarchy by doing these very specific things to remain a man. At the core of most of these discussions, unfortunately, was violence. Like people were being told, there's videos you'd watch and you're like, I cannot believe people are having conversations like this, where it's like you're told if you. So this is like a funny video that my friend did. I think it was based on either the advice of Americs or like one of the popular manosphere people. It was like, if you're a man, you don't shower with hot water. You have to shower with cold water. You don't take sugar. Like it was like the whole thing is like a
Masculinity
parody.
Saturday,
Yeah, but like I'm just thinking like I do understand like you want to feel like a man. Me naelewa. I don't know what masculinity means to you, but I do understand you want some kind of identity that's structured and firm. That's a basic need for a lot of people. It's what anchors society. If you kind of know what your center hold is, you can operate in the world, right? But like telling people to deprive yourself of any kind of joy and to like not love your mom and like to fight your mom when it comes to inheritance, I'm like, that is just crazy. Like, what do you mean you're fighting your mom? If she dies, she's still gonna leave it to you. Like, it's not going to anyone else.
And can you imagine we're having those conversations in 2025?
Yeah.
You know, I saw this joke during COVID and they said, years back, we thought 2020 we would be having flying cars. Now here we are being told, wash your hands and, like it I don't know. You feel like we are progressive, but then it is one step forward, two step backwards.
But also it's like the rise of anti-intellectualism. A lot of people are not reading or investigating how these things came to be. If you look, I'll give an example of like a lot of African cultures. Men used to like wear their hair long. Some of them even wore eye makeup. Some of them like painted like parts of their hands and like had certain kinds of tattoos. And then fast forward to like the colonialism of it and like the taking and like reshaping conversations of like how people are supposed to be. And then you see a man with a dangling earring and like people are already ready to attack them and like call them all sorts of names and degrade them because they look a certain way, because they show up in the world a certain way. And I'm like, this is just so regressive, because your identity is usually anchored in community. The way people love you and show up for you and protect you, that's what is the thing that makes you who you are. How you define yourself around a world that has brought you down. And I'm not saying that women cannot be violent. They can be violent. They sometimes use their words. It's emotional manipulation. People say certain things that you're like, okay, I need you to get it together. One of my favorite phrases is like, I don't support all women. I need all, like some people are just dumb. And it's true. Not because they're terrible people, it's because they're not trying to remove themselves in situations that could not just harm them, but could harm other people. So I think the definitions that we have for ourselves are supposed to be anchored in society and community. But that has been fractured so much. People are not reading, they're not investigating what it means to be in community with other people, how to protect each other and how to hold each other accountable. So we're just getting to a point where everyone is kind of trying to chat GPT their way through life, where it's like, I just encourage you, but I'm not telling you the truth.
And I read somewhere that these large language models, it will get to a point we can't even think for ourselves.
Yes.
Anything you ask them.
Yeah.
And the brain is a muscle. It has to be exercised.
Exactly.
Yes. So we're getting to a point we are not thinking for ourselves, everything. And we have to be very careful about that, because the effects will come later and they will be very lethal, for lack of a better word.
I'll say we need to, regarding AI and like the age we're living in, a lot of us need to be working towards co-intelligence. You should be able to challenge the machine. The machine doesn't know everything. it is just regurgitating things back to you.
In fact, AI has a very complicated relationship with the truth. We've
Yes.
already know that.
And
Not
it's
everything. Yes.
hallucinating. Like, it's actually been on record for hallucinating, and it's also causing AI psychosis in a lot of people. There's a situation I'll give. Like, there's a kid, I think it's a 15-year-old kid, who AI encouraged him to kill himself, and he ended up killing himself. And when you read through what AI was telling that particular child, it's something that he would have gotten from community if because like so many people are removed from having friends. Like, you live your entire life online, you don't have any kind of context of the world around you.
Total isolation.
Yeah. So you feel like you cannot make friends, you feel like you cannot have people who care about you outside of the machine. So this kid was like, should I leave like a noose out so that it's almost like a cry for help? And AI was telling, I think it's ChatGPT was telling this kid, oh no, you shouldn't, don't leave a noose out, like, so that they know you need help. Let me be the one who, like, it's almost like, let me be the one who sees you and understands you, like, because I'm here. And I'm like, that's a machine. It's not there. Like, it's so terrifying to think that people have normalized having conversations with a thing that's not real, when there are human beings around you who could literally bridge that gap for you and make you feel like, not make you feel like, but show up for you when it matters, or institutions that actually make sure that you don't get to a point where you feel like nothing matters. We've lost so many of the little things that made especially life for younger folks worth making community, or like showing up to make community. The thing that AI is being used for is the thing, like, kids don't have third spaces. They don't have places to connect. There's no spaces where it's like, oh, you can go here as kids and just have fun. We don't have playgrounds anymore.
Let's begin with the affordable housing projects.
Yes, we don't have sports grounds. Yes. We don't have investment in libraries. We are not doing like kid events, like specifically, even music. Because like I remember growing up, because me, I grew up with that transition where like there's the old world where like things made sense, and then the now world where things don't make any sense. And I do remember like we had playgrounds, we had some kind of like community library, like events for teenagers, and all of them, some of them are anchored in church, some of them are anchored in like entertainment. There's all these different elements for where people feel like they can connect. All those spaces have kind of disappeared. And then when people start meeting up, I remember there's these skateboarders in town. I think a lot of them are young adults, probably around 18 to like 22, and they were being chased by kanjo. Kids who just wanted to skate, and it's a Sunday, and Sunday is like you're permitted to like use certain streets. They were being chased around by kanjo. And I'm like, so if these kids are not allowed to meet anywhere or do anything together, how are they supposed to connect?
Then hence now, like, they are dependent on this
exactly
quote unquote friend.
Yeah.
So Wanda, I would want to know, when you went through that episode of tech facilitated gender-based violence, what are some of the things that you did to protect yourself? Because at that moment we keep saying, make sure you protect your mental well-being, because trolling is not like, it's a very lethal experience. Yes.
I'll say I still don't know. I still don't know what to do to protect myself. I really wish I had like a definitive answer. But the thing so what that scared me off is like speaking about certain topics. Like there's a part of me that dreads it. Like if someone clips this part and sends it to other people and make it look like I actually don't care about anyone, and I don't want men to have anything, and like, you know, like people have this idea of like who you are because of like a 30-second clip that was clipped the wrong way. That terrifies me. So sometimes I usually encourage, like for myself, I don't think I have protections, but I'm usually like, okay, did you watch the whole thing? Do you have context? Do you know about this person's work? Like I encourage as many people to always push back. When you see someone like the troll train is a very kind of pylon situation where even people who don't know you want to say something. So the thing that
It's from the mob
it's
mentality.
a very mob
Yes,
mentality
yes.
structure. So the thing I do to protect myself, honestly, and this is like a terrible thing to do, I don't contribute to certain conversations because I'm just like, I don't want someone to either take a tweet I wrote or something out of context and then they use it to structure my whole personality. I also try and encourage people. Sometimes I challenge people's perspectives. If it's something I feel like I can contribute to, if someone has written something that's I consider very dangerous, I try and educate them. But some people are just they refuse to move. They just it's almost like I have made up my mind that you women ask for money, you're terrible people, you deserve to die. There are people who just think like that, and I don't know what to do with that. But if it's a situation where someone is genuinely asking or is in a position where they're spreading dangerous messages, the first thing I try to do is like either try not to interact with it at all, or secondly, if it's something that someone is spewing that is absolute dangerous rhetoric, I try and challenge it. So sometimes it puts you in even a worse position because like people already have their preconceived notions about what things are and how they're supposed to be and why you're wrong for thinking like that. But there are people who are more willing to learn and unlearn the things that they know. And I always like hold a little hope, especially I'll give an example of like what the manosphere does. I have a nephew. I think my nephew is like 20. Yeah. My nephew is one of those kids who surprises me. I think he's maybe more feminist than me, at least in his ideas and like how he moves around the world. And I keep thinking my nephew is very young and he's very vocal and deliberate about how he moves in the world. And I just think like it can't be only him. There has to be more of them. So that makes me feel a little less terrified about what the future looks, because there's so many people who are willing to remove themselves from the comfort of ignorance and mob mentality and actually share the truth and push the right information to the forefront. Yeah.
So how do you navigate burnout?
That's a very difficult question. I'll say the first time I was burnt out, I think, was after the protests in June last year, because people were just being shot and abducted and disappeared. And like every other story I had to do every other week was very, very sad.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know how to navigate those feelings of tragedy. And it didn't help that my idea of getting through it was like to make as much more content as possible, which means I'm doing a ton of work, like while operating from a very low point. Yeah. So I think I crashed and burned at around September, or is it August? Around that time, I was just like, I could not keep on going. So what ended up happening is like I I just wrote that I will not be posting for a while. I took a break, mostly to just sleep, because I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to like investigate why I'm feeling like this. I knew why I was feeling like that. I knew why I was tired. I knew why I was angry. I knew why I couldn't go on with my work, because I just didn't feel like I could. So I'll say how to navigate burnout. The first thing you do, I think you kind of have to be very truthful with yourself. You're at the end of your rope. You can't continue just like trying to try and like tread on that ledge.
Pouring from an empty cup,
Yeah, you can't continue. You have to stop. I think you have to be honest with yourself. You have to stop, and then you have to figure out how to navigate that space without putting too much pressure on yourself. So the thing I did at that time, I gave myself a lot of grace. I didn't know that was the word for it, but I was like, Justin, right now you're not in a position to write any jokes. You're not in a position to read any news. You're not in a position to be comfortable with the life that you you had, or like the perception of the life you had and the work that you were doing before, because that's not where you're at anymore. And then I slept a lot. I did try to get therapy. Someone helped me get free therapy, but I think the therapist was also understood it was free therapy, and they would only help me when they were free.
Okay.
So that didn't end up helping me at all, because I don't think she was a bad person. I just think that she, at the moment, the help I needed and like how she was supposed to work with me, they were just not working together. But if you can get a good therapist, preferably not a free therapist, get a therapist, get a therapist, talk to people who actually care. And also, the thing I also did a little bit more is enjoy different kinds of art. Like just immerse yourself in things that you probably wouldn't do. I think I went on a hike with one of my friends. I was watching, I remove myself from like the work that I would normally watch and like watch things that I wouldn't. And it's just like weird stuff and all, like weird absurdist
Don't tell me
art.
Crime Channel, because
No, like
I am a fan of Crime Channel. I was like, oh, they've done analysis. People watch Crime Channel. I'm like, I'm not gonna
no,
read
I
it.
don't actually watch crime.
Yes.
But it's like people who make like those movies that don't make any sense. It's like different types of art that have been juxtaposed together. It's like if you watch it, it's like it calms your mind because you're not thinking about narrative, what is happening. So that kind of helped me calm my brain, because my brain it's very hyperactive. It's just thinking and thinking and thinking and not stopping. So I also did meditate a lot. I tried to work as much as I could in silence, and I think it's not like a one fits all kind of thing. Different things work for different people. So I would encourage you to find the things that you feel center you and like help you get through the moment. But at the same time, the thing I think can work for all of us if we give ourselves a lot of grace. Because when you're going through burnout, it's almost like you're removed from who you are. You don't know who you are anymore also, because you're so used to working, you're so used to showing up in the world a certain way. And when you can't anymore, you feel like you've been removed from who you are. So you kind of have to give yourself grace of how to walk back and like walk a new journey also. And also be aware that this is going to kind of repeat itself, and like slow down when you start feeling those things coming back for you.
Great advice. And there is no one size fits all for everyone.
No.
So just look for what works for you.
Absolutely.
So as we come to the end of this conversation, we are about to mark the 16 days of activism, which starts from the 25th of November. And this year's theme is against digital violence. What message do you have in a nutshell about the issue of digital violence, especially targeted towards a certain gender?
I would like to start saying like this fight is for all of us. The spaces that we frequent, the places we enjoy, they are made safe by the work of, unfortunately, very few people. They are made safe because there's 1 or 2, 3 people who are like, we cannot continue living like this. So we kind of have to change how we move. We have to change how we have these conversations. And those people exist because, not because they've just been harmed themselves, so they have perspective. It's like, no, there are very many people who care that we are in spaces that we feel safe. So the thing I'll say is, do not abscond duty. Whether you're male or female, do not abscond duty and be like, this is women's problems, I should not be involved. And I will not tell you, maybe your sister, maybe your mother. That's just literal. I don't like that kind of advice. I would like to tell people, like, just think about how you would want to move in the world, how safe you would want to feel, how encouraged and not loved, hiyo ni kukudanganya, but like you just want to be able to go about your day without having to think that people are targeting me and like something I said is now being interpreted in a way that I do not like. And now this is who I am, and now I'm terrified and I cannot go outside because if someone who is familiar with something that I wrote or something that I shared or a video I posted is now targeting me.
Yeah.
So I'll just say with this, with the 16 days of activism and also just beyond, is to make sure we are showing up in our world, like the kind of safety you would like to be accorded to you and the people you hold dear. That's the kind of safety you should be pushing for everyone that is navigating the digital space and the spaces that you frequent, even offline. Yeah.
Well put. Any parting shot?
I think come to my comedy shows. I'm joking.
No, it's true. There's a joke you said, and I'm like, I must attend one of our shows.
But I like to encourage people to be kind to one another. Laugh as much as you can. And drink a lot of water. The fight is long and dehydrating, so make sure you drink as much water as you can and just show up in the world with your full self and be as like the person that you want to be is a work in progress. And you might not know a lot maybe where you're at right now, but don't project that violence to other people because you feel like something has been taken from you. The people you're fighting are probably just fighting as hard as you, and nothing comes easy for any of us. So try as much as possible to show up with kindness, not just for for the world and the people around you, but for yourself, and try and navigate that world with that same energy. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wanda, for making the time to be on Digital Dada podcast. We really appreciate. And let's keep the fire burning. Let's keep the fire burning because 2027 is almost here. I was reading a joke and they're online the other day and somebody says the grand finale will be in Kenya. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So let's keep the fire burning because if we keep quiet, then we are really doing a disservice to the next generation.
Absolutely.
And it's a moment that we need to be able to speak up and use every tool to be able to be heard. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So today's episode has been supported by the Association for Progressive Communication, that is APC. And APC is a global network of activists, technologists, and feminists who believe that the internet should be a space of freedom, safety, and equality. Freedom, safety, and equality. So thank you so much. See you on the next episode.